The night that changed everything. The rain hammered against the windows of the Sterling Grand Hotel like nature's own percussion section, each drop creating a rhythm that seemed to match Emma Rodriguez's nervous heartbeat. She glanced at the antique clock above the marble reception desk for the 10th time in 5 minutes, 8:47 p.m., and she still had 4 hours left of what was supposed to be her friend's shift. When Sophia had called her 3 hours earlier, voice hoarse with fever and desperation thick as honey, Emma couldn't say no. Sophia had been there for her through every tough moment of the past year, from losing her apartment to struggling through night classes while working 2 jobs. Now it was Emma's turn to return the favor, even though she had never worked a hotel reception desk in her life. The Sterling Grand wasn't just any hotel. It was the kind of place where celebrities stayed when they wanted privacy, where business deals worth millions happened over champagne in the penthouse suite, and where Emma definitely didn't belong. Her reflection in the polished marble showed a young woman in her early 20s wearing Sophia's borrowed blazer that was slightly too big, trying to look professional while fighting off waves of imposter syndrome. The hotel's lobby was a study in understated elegance. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over cream-colored walls adorned with original artwork, and the scent of white lilies from elaborate floral arrangements mixed with the faint aroma of expensive coffee from the adjoining lounge. Everything whispered wealth and sophistication in a language Emma was still learning to understand. She had managed to check in 3 guests without major disasters, though her hands had trembled each time she handled the sleek computer system. The training Sophia had given her over the phone was basic at best, but Emma's natural warmth and genuine desire to help seemed to compensate for her inexperience. Thunder rolled across the city like a warning, and Emma pulled Sophia's cardigan tighter around her shoulders. The lobby felt different at night, larger somehow, as if the shadows held secrets she wasn't meant to discover. She was reorganizing the brochure display for the 3rd time when the heavy glass doors opened with a soft whoosh. A figure stepped inside, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair that was slightly disheveled from the storm. Water droplets clung to the shoulders of his expensive-looking black coat, and when he moved, there was something graceful yet weary about his movements, like a dancer who had forgotten the joy of dancing. But it was his eyes that stopped Emma's, whirled for a moment. They were the color of deep ocean water, beautiful and haunting, carrying a weight that seemed too heavy for any one person to bear. Emma straightened, pushing aside her nervousness to offer her brightest smile. "Good evening." "Sir, welcome to the Sterling Grand. How may I help you tonight?" The man approached the desk slowly, his expensive leather shoes silent on the marble floor. Up close, Emma could see the fine lines around his eyes, the way his jaw was clenched as if he was fighting some internal battle. He was handsome in the way that magazine covers tried to capture but never quite managed, the kind of looks that came from good genetics and expensive grooming. Yet there was something broken about him that all the money in the world couldn't fix. "I have a reservation," he said, his voice deep and carefully controlled, though Emma caught the slight tremor underneath. "Cross. Daniel Cross." Emma's fingers flew over the keyboard, grateful that she had practiced this part. The name came up immediately, along with details that made her eyes widen slightly. Penthouse suite, extended stay, no checkout date listed. The nightly rate was more than Emma made in a month. "Yes, Mr. Cross, I have you right here," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "The penthouse suite for an indefinite stay. I'll just need to see some identification and a credit card for incidentals." Daniel reached into his coat and pulled out a wallet that probably cost more than Emma's car. His hands, she noticed, were shaking slightly as he placed his ID and a black credit card on the marble counter. Emma had seen enough late-night movies to recognize an American Express Centurion card when she saw one. As she processed his information, she stole glances at his face. There was something about the way he stood, perfectly still but somehow coiled tight, that reminded her of a wild animal that had been cornered. His breathing was controlled, deliberate, as if he was concentrating on something as basic as staying upright. "Is this your first time staying with us, Mr. Cross?" Emma asked, making conversation as the ancient computer system slowly processed his information. Daniel's eyes met hers, and for a moment she saw something flicker in their depths. Surprise, maybe, as if he hadn't expected kindness from a stranger. "Tonight." "Yes," he said simply. Then after a pause, "I needed somewhere quiet." There was something in the way he said it that made Emma's chest tighten with recognition. She had used those same words herself on nights when her small apartment felt too small and her problems too big. The need for somewhere quiet, somewhere safe, somewhere to just exist without judgment. "Well, you've certainly found the right place," she said gently. "The penthouse is our most private suite, and room service is available 24 hours if you need anything at all." The computer finally chimed its completion, and Emma prepared the key cards with practiced efficiency that surprised her. She slid them across the counter. Her fingers briefly touched Daniel's, and she felt a jolt of something electric pass between them. He must have felt it too, because his eyes widened slightly, the first real emotion she had seen from him all evening. "The elevator to your left will take you directly to the penthouse," Emma said, her voice softer now. "Is there anything else I can help you with tonight?" Daniel picked up the key cards, and for a moment he just stood there, looking at her with those haunting blue eyes. Emma had the strangest feeling that he was memorizing her face, as if he was afraid he might forget what kindness looked like. "Thank you," he said finally, and there was something in those two simple words that held more weight than entire conversations Emma had shared with other people. He turned to leave, then stopped, glancing back over his shoulder. "What's your name?" "Emma," she replied without thinking. "Emma Rodriguez." Something shifted in his expression, something that might have been relief or gratitude or something even deeper. "Thank you, Emma Rodriguez, for your kindness tonight." And then he was gone, disappearing into the elevator with only the soft ding of the closing doors to prove he had been there at all. Emma stood behind the desk for a long moment, her heart beating faster than the rain against the windows. There had been something about Daniel Cross that went beyond his obvious wealth or his devastating good looks. Something wounded and beautiful and desperately sad that called to every nurturing instinct she possessed. She shook her head, trying to focus on the mundane tasks that filled the rest of her shift. But as the night wore on and the storm gradually subsided, Emma found her thoughts returning again and again to the man in the penthouse. She wondered what had brought him to the Sterling Grand on a night like this, what demons he was running from, and why the simple act of saying her name had seemed to bring him a moment of peace. Little did Emma know that upstairs in the penthouse suite, Daniel Cross was standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking down at the city lights blurred by rain, and thinking about the young woman with the warm smile and gentle voice who had treated him like a human being instead of a headline. For the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about endings. He was thinking about the possibility of new beginnings, and it all started with a hotel receptionist named Emma Rodriguez who had shown him kindness when he needed it most. The night was far from over, and neither of them could have imagined how this chance encounter would change both of their lives forever. When worlds collide, the morning sun streamed through the towering windows of the Sterling Grand's penthouse suite, casting golden rectangles across the hardwood floors. Daniel Cross stood in the same spot where he had spent most of the night, still wearing his wrinkled shirt from the evening before, watching the city wake up below. He hadn't slept, but for the first time in months, the sleeplessness hadn't felt like torture. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Emma Rodriguez's face, the way her dark eyes had sparkled with genuine warmth, how her smile had reached places in his soul he thought had died along with his company's reputation. She had looked at him without recognition, without judgment, without the mixture of fear and greed he had grown accustomed to seeing in people's faces. Daniel walked to the marble bathroom and splashed cold water on his face, studying his reflection in the mirror. At 32, he looked older than his years. The stress of the past 8 months had carved lines around his eyes and added silver threads to his dark hair. Once, he had been Daniel Cross, the boy wonder of Silicon Valley, the youngest CEO to take a company public before his 30th birthday. Now he was Daniel Cross, the man whose revolutionary medical technology had failed when it mattered most, costing lives and destroying everything he had built. His phone buzzed on the marble countertop, displaying his assistant's name. Patricia had been with him since the beginning, one of the few people who hadn't abandoned ship when the media turned him into a villain. "Patricia," he answered, his voice rough from lack of sleep. "Daniel, thank God." Her familiar voice crackled through the speaker. "I've been trying to reach you for hours. The board meeting is in 2 hours, and the lawyers need to review your statement before the press conference." Daniel closed his eyes, reality crashing back over him like a cold wave. "Cancel it all, Patricia. I'm done running from this." There was a long pause. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of letting other people tell my story while I cower in boardrooms and legal offices. It's time I faced this head-on. Daniel, the lawyers specifically advised against any public statements until the investigation is complete." "The investigation has been complete for 3 weeks," Daniel said firmly. "We have proof that the malfunction wasn't caused by our core technology. We have documentation showing the third-party component failure. We have everything we need to clear our name, and I'm tired of waiting for the perfect moment that might never come." He could hear Patricia shuffling papers on the other end of the line. "Where are you? I'll come to you and we can discuss this properly." "I'm at the Sterling Grand. But Patricia, I need you to do something else for me first." Daniel found himself smiling for the first time in weeks. "I need you to find out everything you can about someone." Meanwhile, 3 floors below, Emma was curled up in the hotel's small employee break room, nursing her 3rd cup of coffee and trying to focus on her economics textbook. Her shift had ended at 6 a.m., but she had decided to stay and study rather, then make the long subway ride home only to turn around and come back for her afternoon job at the bookstore. The break room was nothing like the opulent luxury of the hotel's public spaces. It had fluorescent lighting, mismatched furniture, and a coffee machine that had seen better decades, but it was quiet, and the Wi-Fi was free, making it perfect for catching up on her coursework. Emma tried to concentrate on supply and demand curves, but her mind kept wandering to the mysterious guest from the night before. There had been something about Daniel Cross that she couldn't shake, a sadness so profound it seemed to radiate from him like heat from a fire. She had seen that look before, in her own mirror during the darkest days after her father's death, when the weight of grief and responsibility had nearly crushed her. "Emma Rodriguez?" Emma looked up from her textbook to see a woman in an expensive navy suit standing in the doorway. She was probably in her 40s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a perfect chignon and the kind of confidence that came from years of handling high-stakes situations. "Yes, that's me," Emma said, closing her book and standing up. "Can I help you?" The woman smiled, and it transformed her entire face from intimidating to genuinely warm. "My name is Patricia Wells. I'm an executive assistant, and I was wondering if I could speak with you for a few minutes." Emma's stomach dropped. Had she done something wrong during her shift? Had Daniel Cross complained about her service? "Of course," Emma said, gesturing to one of the worn chairs around the small table. "Please sit down. Is everything okay?" Patricia settled into the chair with practiced grace, pulling out a leather portfolio. "Everything is fine, Emma. In fact, I'm here because my employer was very impressed with the service you provided last night." Relief flooded through Emma's system. Oh, thank goodness. I was worried I had made some kind of mistake. It was my first time working the front desk. Your first time? Patricia raised an eyebrow. You could have fooled me. My employer specifically mentioned your professionalism and kindness. Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks. That's very kind of him to say. I was just doing my job. Actually, you were doing much more than that, Patricia said, her voice taking on a more serious tone. Emma, what I'm about to tell you must remain completely confidential. Can I trust you with that? Emma nodded, curiosity overriding her nervousness. The man you helped last night, Daniel Cross, he's been going through an incredibly difficult time. Without going into details that aren't mine to share, I can tell you that your kindness meant more to him than you could possibly know. Patricia opened her portfolio and pulled out a business card and an envelope. Daniel would like to offer you a position with his company. The salary is substantial, the benefits are excellent, and you would be working directly with our community. Outreach programs? Emma stared at the envelope in Patricia's hands, her mind reeling. I don't understand. He doesn't even know me. We spoke for maybe 5 minutes. Sometimes 5 minutes is enough, Patricia said gently. Daniel has an instinct for people, and he sees something special in you. The position would involve coordinating charitable initiatives, working with local organizations to provide technology access and education to underserved communities. Given your current studies in economics and your obvious compassion for others, Daniel thinks you would be perfect for the role. Emma's hands trembled as she took the envelope. Inside was a job offer that made her eyes widen in shock. The salary was more than triple what she made at both her current jobs combined. There were health benefits, education assistance, and a signing bonus that would cover her tuition for the rest of her degree program. This is incredible, Emma whispered, but I don't understand why he would do this for a stranger. Patricia's expression softened. Emma, Daniel Cross is not the man the media has painted him to be. Yes, he's made mistakes, and yes, he's faced some serious challenges recently, but at his core, he's someone who believes in using his resources to help others. Last night, you helped him remember that there are still good people in the world. Now he wants to help you pursue your dreams of making a difference. Emma looked up from the job offer, her dark eyes bright with unshed tears. What kind of challenges? Patricia hesitated, clearly weighing how much to reveal. His company, Cross Industries, developed a revolutionary medical monitoring system. During a clinical trial 8 months ago, there was a malfunction that resulted in the death of a patient. The media blamed Daniel personally, even though subsequent investigations have shown the failure was due to a third-party component, not his technology. Emma's heart clenched with sympathy. That must have been devastating for him. It nearly destroyed him, Patricia admitted. He's been in hiding ever since, too broken to fight back against the false accusations. But something about your interaction last night has given him the strength to finally tell his side of the story. Emma stared down at the job offer again, her mind spinning with possibilities and doubts in equal measure. The opportunity was beyond anything she had ever dreamed of, but accepting it felt like stepping into a world she didn't understand, a world where million-dollar decisions were made over coffee and kindness could change the trajectory of someone's entire life. I need time to think about this, Emma said finally. Patricia nodded. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Emma, I hope you'll consider it seriously. Daniel needs someone like you on his team, someone who sees the person behind the headlines. And from what I can see, you could use the opportunity to build the kind of future you deserve. As Patricia gathered her things to leave, she paused at the door. One more thing, Emma. Daniel is holding a press conference tomorrow morning to finally address the accusations against him and his company. If you decide to take the position, you should know that you'll be working for someone who's about to fight for his reputation and his life's work. It won't be easy, but I have a feeling that together, you two could accomplish something extraordinary. After Patricia left, Emma sat alone in the break room. The job offer spread out on the table before her like a roadmap to a completely different life. Outside the small window, the city hummed with activity, millions of people pursuing their dreams and fighting their own battles. She thought about Daniel Cross, standing in the lobby the night before with rain in his hair and sorrow in his eyes. She thought about the weight he carried, the loneliness that seemed to surround him like armor. And she thought about the possibility that sometimes the most important moments in life came disguised as ordinary encounters between strangers on rainy nights. Emma pulled out her phone and dialed Patricia's number, her heart pounding with the knowledge that she was about to change her life forever. "Patricia? It's Emma Rodriguez. I've made my decision."